Audio and video. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. It's your favorite time of the week once again. Right now, actually, it is 6 a.m. on Monday morning in my real world, but in the internet world of Keepin It Rio, it is Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. And folks, we got episode 238 on tap for you today, which is insane. But I love it. 238 is going to go straight to number one in your hearts. I can guarantee it already. I have a wonderful guest on tap for today's program. So let me introduce today's guest and let's learn a little bit about this gentleman. What do you say? Ladies and gentlemen, hailing from Columbus, Ohio, college football capital of the world. I'm assuming this man's a huge Buckeye fan. If he's not, he is for the next hour. Yeah. And doing big things in our industry, ladies and gentlemen, it's my golf buddy, Jeremiah Ferguson, coming at you from Maxx Challenger. Jeremiah?
Hey, thank you.
Keeping it real, my friend. How's it going?
Hey, it's going well, man. It's going well. Thank you for having me on. And yes, I'm a huge Ohio State fan, which I have to kind of keep under wraps if I'm in Texas sometimes. But it's weird around here, man, because, you know, like there was questions about could Ohio State win with Ryan Day last year, especially after we lost to Michigan. And now it's like the confidence has changed in Columbus. Now it's like we're walking with a swagger that we've never walked with before. And it's like, oh, this is our year again. We're going to do it again. So like, I feel like we're going into that dangerous confidence zone where it's like, all right, like let's not get too comfortable here, you know? But thank you for having me on, brother. I know, you know, we golfed together a few weeks back, and it was probably easily one of the most fun rounds of golf I've ever had. And just that one time spurred this. And so I'm really grateful to be on your show and looking forward to our conversation.
Definitely. This is going to be a lot of fun. And speaking real quick about Ryan Day, the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes, one of these footballs that I have back here is autographed Ryan Day. And about a year ago, I thought I was going to have to unload it. Like I thought it was going to be, you know, best offer starting at $1 on eBay. But now that thing still is playing a role in my retirement fund. And maybe one day it'll be worth at least like 30 or 40 bucks. And I can retire a rich man. So there you go. We live and die by the Buckeyes. And yep, things can change with the matter of just a win or a loss. Everybody's complete attitude can change. And that's what we love about it. So anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself, my man. Over there in Ohio, obviously a lifelong Buckeye. We've got that part down, and that was the most important aspect of the entire interview right there. But there is much more to you than just being a rabid Buckeye. Tell us a little bit about your life story, and let's see where your life story takes us. It's going to be
man. This is I've got an interesting one, so I'll try to hit on the main points. But I was born in a small town in Ohio, Lima. A lot of people pronounce it as Lima, and kind of grew up between Lima and Zanesville. Like my parents were split up, and on top of that, from the get-go, both of my parents were completely deaf. So I can do sign language, ASL. Like I learned that at a very young age, and growing up was a little obviously different for me than, you know, my classmates, friends, whatever else, because I had Eminem, you know, turned up to 10 at 8 years old, you know, listening to whatever I wanted to. But there was a communication barrier there, right? And so communication's always been really important to me because it's something that we often take for granted, right? Like all of our five senses, if you have them, like I don't take that for granted myself, right? So growing up in that world, and then on top of that, my dad was in and out of rehab my entire childhood, right? Like just couldn't get out of the cycle of addiction. And he unfortunately passed when I was about 20 years old. But I kind of took that that upbringing, and I listened to another podcast on this like a few years ago about like children who kind of take the environment that they were given, right? Like, you know, we talk about what is it? What's the word for I can't remember, where you attribute like so much to your genetics versus like your environment that you're in, right? So I kind of became the one up. So I kind of wanted to become opposite. And from the get go, I really worked hard. I was good in school, and started working, as soon as I could, 15, 16. Actually at 12, I was like mowing yards to get a PlayStation one summer. Like I was just like hustling, right? And so my work ethic kind of foundation has always been there. And, I started my career in telecommunications. I worked at Verizon for about 10 years, 10, 12 years in the retail space, and, kind of worked my way up the ladder there. Ended up moving to California for a year, coming back. I've been all over the place, but eventually kind of settled down, had a couple kids. They're 10 and 7 now. And found my way into the roofing industry, man. I had worked at Time Warner for a short amount of time, and Spectrum came in and acquired Time Warner. And I found myself around Thanksgiving in 2016, 2017 with no job. And so I went onto LinkedIn and had a message from a recruiter about working at a manufacturer. And I was like, well, I don't really know anything about roofing, but let me check this out. And so I did that in Columbus. I ran a territory for IKO in Columbus for about a year and a half, 2 years. And fortunately had a really successful tenure here in Columbus, which led me to getting a district manager job out in the Southwest District, where I managed 6 states. And so I moved out to California again for the second time. And unfortunately, the wife and I split up at the time. So I had to relocate back to Columbus and kind of find a job within a short amount of time, right? It was one of those situations where it was very unexpected. And so I just, again, kind of coming from a fractured household, I want to make sure my kids are like front and center. I want to make sure that they don't feel like the disconnect, right? And so I ended up buying my house through Zoom and applying for a ton of jobs on LinkedIn, and found myself in the mortgage world, actually, of all places. And this is when rates were like 2 or 3%, so refis were, crazy. People were buying houses. Everything was going for over asking price at the time, right? So I built a successful mortgage company over the course of about 2 to 3 years. And then my buddy, Brandon Wilson, who you met, was building the concept of Maxx Challenger behind the scenes, and would call me here and there about questions or for my opinion on certain things. And eventually it just got to the point where he was like, you got to come on board. And in December of 2023, my first day was at the Roofing Process Conference on the floor. So I got to go to that show, and that was my first foray into the claims world, supplementing, all that good stuff.
I love it. Okay, that's a cool background, and I knew that you had experience in distribution and through the manufacturing side of the business, and it's always fascinating to me how people find their way into these things and completely on accident. Once again, folks, every single person that I talk to on the podcast that's in the roofing industry, it's like, whoops, I got in on accident. The same thing happened to me. I got in accidentally one Friday, and here we are 27 years later, we're still doing it. But it's kind of a cool dynamic to me when you get to see one side of the industry, right? And I was in distribution for 12 years before I got into the contracting side. So I understand what goes on that side of things as well. I've been, the guy that calls and orders the materials directly from the manufacturer and sets all that stuff up. And I've done all that. And to me, it's like, okay, you get in on that side. And obviously, I think one of the cool things about being a manufacturer rep is you get to go around and meet all these different contractors on the front end. Basically, that's your job. You go in and befriend them and say, hey, here's some donuts. Let's go grab lunch. What can we do to help you? And then you kind of get into a different side of the industry. And like you said, kind of unexpectedly, maybe weren't even planning on getting back into roofing, but obviously you had a little bit of a foundation and understood what it was. So when you make the transition from one to the other, what are some of the similarities? And then obviously we'll ask what some of the differences are. But to me, it seems like you probably started with a really solid foundation and were able to kind of hit the ground running because of your previous experience. Yeah. Would that be a correct assumption?
Yeah, I would say so. So, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit later, but I thought it would be easier than it was, right? Because, I have all these connections and network, and that's one of the things that I'm so grateful for in my time with manufacturing and distributing, and working with distributors is it forces you to go out and build your network. If you're good at what you do, you've got to go out, meet people, shake hands, have lunches, breakfast, golf, whatever it is, right? And so that time really helped me establish my network. And, to this day, just a ton of great people that I talk to, regardless of whether they're clients or not, of people that I worked with, either from a distribution perspective or a manufacturing perspective, or contractors in general. So, yeah, so being able to start on day one and pick up the phone and call my buddies and say, hey, I'm working in this new capacity now. Let's chat, right? That put me, I think, at a huge advantage, compared to maybe somebody that might be green to the industry or just learning. So I'm really grateful for that time, but I also am grateful for being back in the industry. Like, I mean, it's once you've been doing this for so long, again, we kind of take it for granted. And having been in a different industry recently, I can tell you that there's nothing like this world. Like, it's just, regardless of all the drama that happens on a day-to-day basis, like, it is so relationship driven and there's just so much opportunity. Like, there's so much, it's its own world, and it's not yet bound by like laws and like all these guidelines, right? I'm coming from the mortgage space where it's like, everything is by the book. And so I'm not saying that we don't have rules and guidelines and things like that, but it's just so much more of a freer feeling. And you want to get up and do what you do every day, right? And that was the feeling I was looking for.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything better than helping people in an area where they may be, in need of some help. Maybe they don't understand exactly what it is. You coming in with previous experience from the industry is one thing, but you're doing something completely different, right? You're going from, hey, buy my shingles to, hey, check this out. I've got a service that we offer that's going to save you thousands of dollars or make you more money or help your homeowner get, I don't want to use the I word, but, made whole once again. And obviously there's some massive differences there. We kind of covered the similarities from one to the other, but now you get into the other side of it where it's like, okay, I thought it would be easier because I knew all these people, but it's a completely different scenario. So let's talk a little bit about the early challenges that you may have had as you come into Maxx Challenger. You're now going to start helping people in a completely different way.
Yeah.
You go back to your former clients and talk to them. Obviously, it's a completely different conversation. So what was that like as far as a transformation from one aspect to the other within the same industry?
I would say it was a challenge, right? I mean, when people buy material, they typically, you've got your product, right? Whether you're using IKEA or GAF or Owens Corning, whatever it is, there's no, you kind of have there's no built-in loyalty, but, maybe in the form of like a rebate or some sort of like incentive or something like that. But like on the supplementing side, there is no built-in incentive for loyalty, right? And so that's one challenge that I think we saw early on was how do we make sure that our clients are sticky, right? Like that they're loyal. And I think that came down to two things. Number one, relationships. We're one of the few companies with boots on the ground where we're traveling out to meet people like yourself, where we want to invest in the contractor as a whole, not just, the supplementing side of things can lead into so many different conversations, right? How's your documentation look? What CRM are you using? How's your cash flow, right? Like those are really important topics that we have to be able to cover. And so we keep finding ourselves going deeper with the contractor, right? And learning their business and how they're structured, because although we might all do the same thing as far as, being an exterior contractor, how people do it is so different. Even philosophies or how they feel about requesting supplements is different for each contractor. So that's one. I would also say structure is a good number two. When we kind of went out and started kind of running and gunning all over the nation, we found that, there is a type of contractor that fits our process a little bit better. If you have a point guard, or if you're the point guard as the owner, right? Like somebody that we can communicate directly with, because once we get 8 to 10 to 12 sales reps asking us what's going on with different files, that can make it really difficult, to streamline the process. So really, when you look at what we do, beyond the nuts and bolts of it, we are an entire systematic change for a business. And that's hard. That's a hard change to make sometimes. It does take the right person, somebody that's open to that, somebody that's willing to say, okay, I don't have the perfect process here. And unfortunately, that isn't, common in our industry, or extremely common in our industry, right? To find somebody that doesn't say, hey, maybe I've got it down, or I've got an in-house guy, right? And so that leads to a different type of conversation. But at the end of the day, I would say that it's, it's been great. Obviously there's some learning challenges whenever you're in a kind of a startup environment, which is the environment that we've been in for the last 2 to 3 years. But even our team came from a contractor, so we understand, have a little bit of a pulse on what that looks like already, right? Like we're not starting from the ground up and saying, okay, like I've supplemented, like I can just go do this for whoever. So we understand, cash flow is a major challenge for our industry. We understand communication is really important. And we're always trying to look for ways to meet our customers' needs at the end of the day. And I think that's what you have to do in the current environment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I love the fact that it's a constant evolution on both sides, and being able to understand that and say, hey, maybe we're not the right fit for you. Maybe we're the perfect fit. Taking the time to kind of get to know your people before you dive in and start to really, do work that, may or may not end up being productive for either side. I think that's crucial. And I think that a lot of people sometimes get in trouble because they just say, well, I saw you on Facebook, so you must be awesome. Here's all my files, make it happen. And then the next thing you know, there's all kinds of chaos going on, and people are in big financial trouble because it's taken longer than they thought. So for me, it's always kind of been a matter of, understanding your numbers, I think, is a huge thing that we talk about on every episode of the show that I have a entrepreneur, no matter what kind of industry it is. Understanding your numbers, understanding what you need to survive and how you need to collect it, and the timelines necessary to, make everything happen. Obviously, with supplementing, there can be a little bit of an extension on that time. So let's say that you meet a contractor and they say, hey, Jeremiah, I would like the peace of mind on my end of knowing that everything's being maximized and we're getting everything that we're supposed to. It's not my forte. I can build a great roof. I think you'd be a cool guy to work with. What are some of the things then that you look for within those people to make sure that it's going to be an understanding on both sides where you get what you expect out of it, and it's not going to be, well, hey, I hired you guys. Why didn't you get me $20,000 on this last claim? You guys must suck, and now I'm going to go tell everybody.
Yeah.
What's it like when you start off with a prospective client?
Yeah, it's so it used to start off with, hey, this is going to be easy. You need us, right? And then we face our challenges, and we either grow together or we separate from there, right? Like that's how it used to look. And now we tackle the hard conversation early on, right? In my initial call or meeting with a contractor, we're talking about cash flow heavily, right? Like I'm asking typically what their production schedule looks like, how far out are they building? Because I want to know how much more time are we going to require in their process, right? Because if you're building a job 3 days from signed contract, then you might be waiting an extra 27 or 28 days for us to close out that claim for you, right? So whereas if you're building out 2 weeks, then you're not looking at that far of or that much of a difference in turnaround time when you can close out the claim, file the certificate of completion, all that good stuff. So getting into those conversations early, I feel like helps kind of make it make sense for both parties, because let's be honest, like if it's not a good fit for us, it's not a good fit for them, and vice versa. So it's best to just come to an understanding and just be honest with each other about, hey, this is what we do. This is the time that it takes, typically to work a claim to close to where we feel like we can actually maximize the dollar amount. And then on top of that, we do it ethically, Chuck. So we're not like, I know porta potties are the big running joke in our industry. Like, we're not that company that's like writing for porta potties or writing for a huge scope of work. So we're trying to do things the right way. And we always call supplementing an art form. And we feel like it is. And with art, there's no perfect, right? It's hard to know how good you could be, right? Or what your results look like. So that's where I can put on my like consultant mind hat and just say, okay, does this make sense for how your business is set up? What's your goal within the next 3 to 5 years? Is it to scale? Is it not to scale? Is it just to reduce stress so that you can go golf more? Like, what's your goal, so that I can figure out whether we fit into that picture or not. And sometimes we don't, to be honest. So, and I think people are appreciative when you can let them know, like, hey, like, I'm in sales, but like, this just doesn't make sense for us. And I don't want us to come to a point within 30, 60, 90 days where we're going to be unhappy with each other operationally, right? Like, that doesn't make sense. So making sure that we're qualifying people in the right way and asking the right questions is big.
I love that, because I agree with you. There's no sense in wasting either party's time if it's not going to be a mutual benefit, and the expectations on both sides aren't going to be, fully transparent and understood on the front end. I've seen a lot of companies that get their reputation tarnished for doing nothing wrong, for, hey, so-and-so said they were going to do it and they didn't, and they suck because I expected something different. I think having those tough conversations on the front end is extremely important. And then that way everybody goes into it with the same basic understanding of what's going to happen. So you've got this, and you've refined this process. Now you've got some clients that you're working with. You've been doing this for a couple of years now with the supplementing side. One of the biggest things that I've noticed over the last 4 or 5 years with insurance claims in general is they don't look exactly the same as they used to 5 years ago. A lot of things have changed. A lot of coverages have changed. A lot of, the percentage deductibles have become a prominent thing now. All these things that can go wrong. I've been getting a lot of homeowners here lately that are getting letters. I didn't even file a claim, but I'm getting a letter saying that I have to replace my deal. What are my options? And obviously, we'll try to file a claim, I guess, and at least go down swinging. But as things have changed over the last couple of years with the way that the process goes, with the way that things have kind of been tightened up, how has that changed the way that you guys approach things over the time? Because you've got to stay ahead of it, and you've got to be on the forefront as far as, this is now how it's going to look, and this is what's going to happen. This isn't as prominent as it used to be. This is going to be more. What kind of changes have you guys faced over the last couple of years to make sure that you maintain that, that prominence in the industry, and that you are as effective as possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we all feel that right now. Like, we all feel like the process of handling an insurance claim has changed so much, and we can attribute that to so many different factors, Chuck. I mean, obviously, like, there's a lot of friction in the process when it comes to handling a claim for a homeowner, or the homeowner, being involved in that process themselves. And I feel like the friction has only increased over time. So that's an off paper impact, right? Like, I'm talking about like adjusters changing constantly on files, having to deal with companies like Seek Now or Ladder Now, where, they're sending somebody up who's not the person responsible for approving or denying the claim or the claim result as a whole, right? So that's off paper, but then on paper, you're seeing, higher deductibles. You're seeing more ACV policies. You're seeing endorsements with no code coverage, those types of things. So we constantly have to adapt. And being in this industry for, the amount of time that I have, and being specifically within Maxx Challenger, I found that, like, we have to train our asses off. Like, we literally have to continue to train and keep up with what's changing, because if we don't, we will get left behind. So we actually just got back from San Diego last week with the whole team, the entire team, and spent 2 full days on carrier specific strategies and what's working and what's not. Because even within our own, team, we've got 23 supplementers now on staff, right? The results vary. We've got some people that are closing files a little quicker, or maybe getting a little bit more out of it, or whatever. So the goal is to find the middle ground as best we can and reduce the variance, so that we've got, everybody rowing in the same direction. But that also leads me to think, okay, well, if somebody's doing it in-house and they're not training their person, right, or they're not getting continuous education or something like that to stay, on top of what works and what doesn't work, what do their results look like, right? And so many contractors, I feel like, aren't tracking their supplementing results. That I think that's an important place to start. Track your supplementing results, because that'll tell you, okay, like what can we benchmark this with, right? So when I come in and I have a conversation with you and I'm like, hey, these are the numbers in your market, then we can compare those two and see if it's a good fit or not.
I love it. And I think that just kind of led me into the next topic of discussion, which is, as contractors, I've known, thousands of roofing company owners all over the country. I've been doing this for a long time. I was in distribution for 12 years before I got into contracting as well. So I know company owners all over the place. And there are so many different opinions on this. I personally, when we went golfing the other day, I told you guys, in a perfect world for me right now, everything would just be retail and you wouldn't have to mess with it. But that's never going to really be the case, especially I live in San Antonio, Texas. We're probably going to get a pretty good hailstorm sometime in the spring, and it's going to open up a lot of opportunities. And you start having more and more, in the fire, so to speak, and you've got all these different things going on. And I've worked with companies in the past who say, we don't need to supplement because we're making enough. I've got companies that say we need to supplement the shit out of it, and we need, a porta-john on site, and we need like 65 man hours because this guy's going to stand there and watch. We need all these different things, and everybody's kind of in the mix there. So you guys start looking at some of the crucial components that are often overlooked on claims. You do extensive training on this. You guys, take your team across country to learn what each specific carrier is, what they're doing at the time, because everything's different, which to me is that's a whole other story. That's an episode in itself. But you guys figure this out. You've got to go out and work with other contractors. And let's say you find a contractor that you would be a perfect fit for in your mind. You suit their needs, but they're just not into it. They do in-house supplementing. Like you said, what quality, what level of in-house supplementing would there be versus hiring an outside source to do it? And we'll use a standard, mom and pop roofing company that's doing, $3 to $5 million a year. They're pretty successful in their market, doing well, probably running, 150 claims a year, maybe. Nah, probably not with those numbers, but you know what I mean? Yeah. And they say, Jeremiah, you're a nice guy and all, but we're good. We got this under control. How would you compare an in-house supplementing versus a service? And how would you, differentiate yourself and provide value to someone that maybe is on the other side and doesn't see that value yet?
Yeah, I would say first that we are never looking to displace somebody's job. We are never looking to say, hey, like, let's do this instead of the employee that you have, right? And typically what we find, or what I find, is that the employees that are supplementing, when they say they do it in-house, are also doing other things, right? Like they're maybe an office manager, maybe they're handling marketing, or maybe they are only supplementing, right? And regardless of the situation, I always propose, like, let's try 10 and 10. Like, you do 10, you let me do 10, and then let's stack the numbers at the end of the day and see exactly what the net results are. Like, I want to have an honest conversation about, like, whether this makes sense or not. And if it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, the numbers will tell us whether it makes sense or not, and I'm talking, like, once you pay us, our fee, cash flow, like all that stuff. I want to see if it makes sense. And that's the benefit of not having like a forced loyalty in place, is that we can try it out and see whether it works or it doesn't work, right? And then maybe allocate that human capital to something else. Like, how many checks are you leaving on the street? Are your sales guys responsible for picking those up? Why not, like, use that person and have them out, like, grabbing checks and collecting Google reviews instead of sitting on the phone with State Farm on hold for 2 or 3 hours, right? Like, as an in-house employee, you have to compensate that person regardless, right? And that's the difference of working with a company like us. Is right now we're only charging on the increase. So if we can't come up with a valid result to the bottom line for your company, then you don't owe us anything, right? We take that risk on. We take that time on. So So that's beneficial, but also finding out exactly what else their in-house person does, if they do anything at all, how good they are at it. But I feel like there are always some things that our team can do, just because we've got the power of collaboration, right? Like they may have one in-house person that's learning from forums and groups and doing everything they can to digest as much as they can possible. Well, you've got 23 people doing this every day that are constantly changing ideas, and that's always going to lead to a better outcome.
Man, I love that. And if I wasn't already a client, I would be now. That like you say, you're taking away something that's necessary off of someone's plate so they can go do something more valuable. And I think having people in roles where they are able to excel and able to maximize your results is always a good thing. And I love what you just said. We only charge based on, what we get added on.
Yeah.
And this is a common misconception, I think, with a lot of contractors when I read in these forums is, I don't want to spend all that money and I don't want to pay all that money, and they're going to try to take the percentage of the whole thing and this and that. So you've kind of dispelled that rumor a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit more about that. Say, you're a contractor that would like to maybe get some of that responsibility off the plate, give it to an expert, someone who can handle it. And I just lost my train of thought, Jeremiah.
That's okay. We'll pick it
Something
back up.
shiny just rolled across my foot there. But you're a contractor. You're not 100% sold yet, but you want to do it. What are some of the costs and some of the initial things that, as a contractor, if you're willing to make this commitment, you're willing to change your mindset and see what the results would be that may differ? What are the steps that would be required for that, and what would be some of the expectations as a contractor that we could expect from you?
Yeah, I mean, we operate a little bit differently in the sense that you tell us what trades to supplement for, so there's no confusion, right? Like, I mean, because every job is a little bit different. Every job's a little unique in its own way. And I see so often where supplementing companies, it's not a bad thing necessarily, are just pulling files, or, the contractor's just sending pictures and the scope of work in their contract, and then the supplementer, just writes a supplement, right? And it's like, okay, well, how do we know? Like, are you just writing it for everything that you can, and then the adjuster's giving the contractor a call and he's like, hey man, what the hell is this about? Right? That's where we don't want to take things 2 steps back. And I feel like that process can really, like the relationship between the adjuster and the contractor matters. If you're in a market and you're seeing these guys like every day, unless a huge storm hits and you've got a bunch of independent adjusters in your area, that matters, right? Like you're going to see them so often, and you don't want to be known as the guy that's sending in the scopes that are just like massively inflated and have all these line items that you're not actually doing on the job. So that's number one. But number two, by you telling us what you want to do on the job, I feel like we can make sure that we're on the same page. We're writing for exactly what you want us to write for, and finding, implementing our secret sauce, if you will, of what tricks we have up our sleeve, which I don't even know all of them, to be honest. But there are certain things that our team is able to do, and to really impact the results and the bottom line. We always say that we're not in it for us, man. Like it's not about just making money for us or like a transactional environment. And one of the things that's really disappointing for me to see in the supplementing world is that there's so many promises and expectations when you really can't do that. Like you can't sit there and tell me as a contractor that I'm going to get an O&P approved on every single job. Like that's not reasonable, right? So I feel like a lot of it comes down to expectations. And as far as the process goes, what we do is we build an app for you to upload all of your photos, documents, scope of work, Eagle View, or whatever roof report you're using. And, on the last page of that app, you tell us what trades to go after, what notes there are. Is it pre-build or post-build, right? And that's another conversation I get into, man. It's like, you'd be surprised at how many contractors are solely doing post-build supplements, right? And we've got the data. We've done probably about 13,000 claims in the last 2 years supplemented, right? And we know that pre-build supplements are about twice as impactful as post build, right? We get faster results. We are getting more increases on the pre-build side. And I think that all just comes down to leverage in a certain sense, right? Because before the build day comes, you've got the homeowners on your side, right? They want the same thing that you do. But as soon as you build the job, they're kind of like, all right, I got my new roof. I'm good now, right? So I think a lot of that comes down to leverage, and that's where we can kind of, again, put our consultant hat on and really show them like, hey, like, this is how we should do things for cash flow purposes. Like, if we're looking to maximize everything, not just the dollar amount, like, let's talk about how we do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like you say, pre-build supplementing is something that a lot of people don't do. And to me, I would rather have the guaranteed on the front end than have to hope for the best afterwards. And, at that point, there's far less likely to just say, oh, okay, whatever. You've already done the work at that stage. So that's a huge aspect to it that I think a lot of people don't quite recognize. And I think that's the value right there. If you're a contractor and you use a lot of claims, you need to be able to make sure on the front end that you're going to be all right and that you don't have to fight for your life on the back end for something that is less likely statistically to work for you. So I love that insight. And that's coming from a guy that's doing, thousands, tens of thousands of claims. So it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Now, the next aspect of this process is my favorite. And that, of course, is our homeowner, our consumer, the person who is actually in the trenches, whose home was damaged, who filed an insurance claim. And, we work with, homeowners of various backgrounds, various age ranges, you name it. And the one thing that I always find the most intriguing is, how do you approach a homeowner about something like this? Because in many ways, the general public has kind of been misled a little bit with all the TV ads and stuff, and, like a good neighbor and all this stuff that's going on. And it's kind of embedded into your mind. Whereas the contractors, the guys on this side, are also kind of viewed in a negative light, because on the news every once in a while, you'll see how, so-and-so roofing stole a bunch of money from a bunch of elderly folks. So-and-so did this. So it's kind of, we're painted in a weird light as we're kind of almost the bad guy, and we're trying to go up against the good guy. And the way that it's perceived for a lot of homeowners is, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to cause any drama with my beloved insurance carrier. But there's a lot left on the table in that. And I believe that they probably are well aware of the fact that most people statistically are not going to want to cause, any kind of ruckus or be that square peg. So how do we go about conveying value to a homeowner who just got a claim? Let's say we look at a claim and, there are several line items that were left off, several things that we could potentially go and get supplemented. But Mrs. Jones is saying, well, I've worked with Bob Smith over there for the last 50 years, and I don't want to make Bob upset, and I love Bob. So how do we convey this to a homeowner? Hey, look, this is what we can get for you. This is what's lacking. You just have to trust us, because it's an uphill climb, I think, just being a contractor trying to earn that trust.
I think the one common denominator that a company like Maxx Challenger does for both the contractor and the homeowner is reduce liability, right? Because if we're not fighting for those line items, who is? And if they don't get approved, who's responsible for them, right? And I hate to see a scenario where, this has come up a couple times where maybe there's like bad decking or something like that. And I've ran into contractors who don't even know that they can supplement for bad decking. And then they're like, oh, well, I just charged that guy like $4 or $5 grand for deck. And I'm, and it's like, okay, like that's what we are in the business to do. And, I know you and I have talked a lot about money here. And I want to be clear, if you're a homeowner, what we do is we find the line items that the insurance carriers aren't approving that are necessary on the job, right? There's a lot of components that go into build day, that a homeowner probably doesn't typically see. We're talking ice and water, drip edge, underlayment, ridge, you name it, right? And they go outside one morning and they just see guys, tearing off shingles and putting a new roof on, but they don't necessarily see all of the different, everything that it takes for that job to come together, right? And so our our mission is to make sure that the contractor and downstream the homeowner is getting everything taken care of on that specific claim. I mean, I would feel, as a homeowner, I would feel it would be hard for me to say, all right, well, you've got your deductible, but now we found bad decking, so you're responsible for that, and now you may be responsible for all these different things. And I think the value that we provide to a contractor is like, hey, I work with a company, and this is all they do. All they do is, work with the insurance carrier to fight for the line items that we are going to be doing on this job. So I think it's a safety net. I think ultimately we're a safety net in making sure that they're not responsible for anything more financially than just their deductible, and that they're taken care of. That there's no corners being cut on the job. Because that's a huge thing too, Chuck. Is if I'm a contractor, depending on where I'm at and the size of my company and how I'm structured, right? You've probably seen this where there's a lot of corners being cut, and when you work with a company like us, it's very hard to cut corners because you're getting compensated for everything. So when I look at incentives, right, the people that want to cut corners are the people that are trying to work with what they have, right? They might have a scope that they're not supplementing, and they're saying, all right, well, I don't really want to replace the gutters. Like, why don't we just take that and, whatever it is, right? So I think that, having us in the process really eliminates the cutting corners, eliminates the financial burden potentially on a homeowner, and just it makes it easy, right? It's a peace of mind thing, and that's how I present it to contractors and homeowners, that hey, working with a company like ours, it gives you peace of mind in the process.
That's exactly it. You hire the professionals and the experts to take care of the things that we don't know about. And I tell homeowners that constantly. Yes, I've worked in roofing for 27 years. I've done, God, I don't even know how many claims over the course of my sales career. Thousands. I don't know how many thousands at this point. But I'm a roofer. I'm not an expert when it comes to this stuff. It's important to have people in place that can handle these things so that you get the best result at the end of the day. And I think that once you get that through to a homeowner, they really appreciate it. And they say, you know what? You're doing everything that you're supposed to do to get me the very best. You're going above and beyond. These other two guys haven't even offered this, and you're putting it out there. So the next concern on both sides, as a homeowner as well as a contractor, is, okay, we know, especially in modern times, insurance claims are drawn out. They're taking a lot longer than they used to get that final payment. You're having to jump through hoops. I finished a job 3 months ago, and I just got a letter the other day, an email saying you need to send different completion photos. And it's like, what? I did that 2 months ago. So the big concern now on both ends, as the homeowner, is I don't want this to get prolonged any longer than it needs to. Now I'm convinced that my house has damage because the insurance is paying for it. Now I freak out every time the wind blows or every time there's rain. And as a contractor, it's like, all right, Jeremiah, I want you to help us, but I got to pay my crews. I got to pay my material bills. I've got to pay all that stuff. What kind of extension are we looking for on average for a standard residential claim? As a homeowner, as a contractor, what can we expect as far as, hey, we can't just call and get it approved overnight. It's going to take a little bit of time. Here's what a legitimate, realistic expectation would be.
Yeah, I would say that on average, and this is a very truthful average, we just went through this last week, it takes about 35 days from the point that we get the signed contract and the pictures and all the documents that we need. And so the way that we position that with contractors and again, downstream homeowners, is that it would be pre-built. Let's make sure that our process is as tight as possible. So as soon as you get your contract signed, as soon as you get that scope of work, you send it to me so that we can start working on that file. And then you can do everything that you do on the back end, right? Assuming the job is profitable enough for you to build, you still have the homeowner pick their colors and go through the process and build the job. And then if anything comes up on build day, let us know. We've got a link within our app that says additional supplemental items. If you find out that you've got bad decking, you can submit that to us and we'll go after that as well, right? But the best possible synergistic kind of situation is when we're both working and doing the best that we can on both sides, respectively. So, you do your process as a contractor, we do our process, as the supplementing team. And then, let's say you're building out 2 weeks from now, maybe we're only looking at 2 weeks after build day to close that job out. And now you've got an additional $4,000 in your pocket for that claim, or, $4,000 worth of line items that you got to prove that weren't on the original scope of work.
There you go. So it's not going to be a terrible thing. It's not going to circle you around the drain, get to the point where, you're absolutely desperate. I think that the time that you commit to that is well worth it. I know a lot of contractors still in this, in this environment are living hand to mouth and, I just need this quick as I can and so on and so forth. But let's say that someone's watching this and they were like, hey, that really makes sense to me. I understand what this guy's saying. I've heard of Maxx Challenger, because I'll be honest with you, I have in several private groups, asked the question, who's doing supplementing in-house versus who's hiring? Who are you hiring? Your guys' company comes up quite a bit in conversation, whether it be I've worked with them and they're great, or I've heard great things and I'm considering it. Let's kind of focus our attention on the I've heard great things and I'm considering it crowd at the moment. Someone's watching this and they're like, you know what? I like what this guy's saying. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a Buckeye. Obviously, he's smart and he's a winner. I want to do business with Maxx Challenger. What is the way, or what are some of the ways that our audience can find you guys, can maybe reach out and say, hey, are we someone that you'd be willing to take a chance on working with? Do we have any value to you? Yeah. We'd like to work together. How do we make it happen?
Yeah, I would say this. Number one, if you're hesitant to have a conversation, there's almost never a conversation that I have that doesn't come out with some sort of value, right? Like somebody's either learning something that they can do better. And we're not like pushy, like it's not like, we're not selling timeshares here, right? I'm not like keeping you at the table until you say yes. That's not how we work. But if you want to link up with us, I will keep an eye on the comments when we post this video, and feel free to add me, Jeremiah Ferguson on Facebook, Jeremiah with Maxx on LinkedIn, or you can go to our website, www.maxx with 2 X's, maxxchallenger.com.
No excuses now, folks. You've been given all the info. You know what to do. It's up to you now to decide whether or not you want to make that extra money that's there. We all know, and I explain it to my homeowners, it's nothing personal, but the person that comes out and does the inspection from the insurance company, they're getting paid to minimize whatever they can. And it's up to us to represent our clients. So I think this would be a great opportunity for anybody watching at this point. If you're even a little bit concerned about that, or have, any questions whatsoever, reach out to Jeremiah and the team. They've got the best hats in the industry, as well, as you can see back here. And I want to spend the next couple of minutes of our podcast before we wind it down talking about something totally unrelated to supplementing. We've learned everything. We know your life story, basically from a youngster in Lima Bean Town, all the way up to today, become the number one supplement expert in the world. So let's talk a little bit about how you and I met. A couple weeks ago, I get a Facebook message from this gentleman named Jeremiah, and I don't know this guy. I never met him before, but he's very friendly, and he's like, "Hey, Chuck, are you planning on going to the RCAT convention, which is here in Texas? The what is that? Roofing Contractors Association of Texas."
Nailed it.
Yeah, and they're having a golf outing, and we just wanted to see if you'd have any interest in playing on our team. Now, to me, that was very random, and I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but sure, threaten me with a good time, accept the invitation. And then I reach out to my friend Jason Shumway over in Ohio, who is a business partner with my roofing company here. Known Jason for years through my time in distribution. And that's our common friend that we have. And we come to find out, you were at Jason's grand opening and all this cool stuff going on over there. So we go to RCAT to play golf. And my question for you now on the hot seat is, what was your takeaways from that event? What was your experience like at RCAT in 2025 here in I guess it was Austin, Texas. Is that
Yeah,
where Round Rock, wherever
awesome.
the hell it was?
Round Rock. Yeah, that's right. Round Rock.
Well, what was your week like coming down here, playing golf, going through the conference? Did you guys have any success?
Yeah, I would say it went really well. Obviously, Texas is a huge market for a supplementing company like ours. We actually just hired a business development rep located out of Dallas who he'll be in Texas probably nearly every day. So it's a big market for us, and we want to do more of that there. We want to help more contractors there. RCAT was awesome. Like every trade show and conference, you kind of bring something different away. Hopefully it's some business, but it's not always business, right? Like sometimes you're there to deepen connections or, meet new people. And I feel like we got a little bit of all those things during that. Like meeting you, like from a random Facebook DM was like one of the highlights of my week. And that was like, first day. So, coming away from the first day, golfing with you guys, it was like, man, I already consider this week a win, but from there on out, the conference was great. We got to meet a couple of our clients who are around the Austin area after the conference ended, like for dinner, drinks, or whatever it was. So we were able to maximize our time and really like, it was a really impactful event for us and hopefully everybody that we met there.
I had a blast, and I'm not going to lie. I think we played fairly well at golf. My goal going in, okay, was don't look stupid. And I think I maybe at times I might have failed just a little bit. I might have shanked a couple here or there. But the reality is, the one thing I know about golf is nobody's paying attention and nobody cares. And as soon as you're done with that hole, it's forgotten. So we played really well. I think we carded it like 10 under. And my goal going in was to finish 10 spots from the bottom or better. And I never saw the official rankings, but I feel like we did that. And
I thought we were like top 5, top 10, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, here's what I'm proud of. Dude, we did it honestly. Number one, I'm pretty sure we did. I might have.
We did. Yeah. I don't even think we
there was
we didn't even use all of our mulligans that we
I think we left like 4 or 5 birdies on the table too. Like there were so many putts that we lipped out that were like, just like, had they gone in, we could have been like really competing for like, top dog.
We could have been up on stage.
Dude, I love just having a good time. And when you're like semi-competitive, that it makes it just all the much more fun, right? Like it was a great round. I had a great time with you guys. And yeah, I think we played really well, to be honest.
I loved every second of it. It was the highlight of my week as well. I came back that Friday and went through the convention a little bit, but the golf was definitely the highlight. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to go out there. We had an absolute blast. We got to see some buddies from, the state of Texas roofing world that I get to see once or twice a year. And I appreciated that very much. Open invitation anytime you guys are near San Antonio. We'll find a place to go play golf or do something cool. But I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. Didn't even know at the time that Jason and I were actually really good friends and that we own a company together. It was just hey, I noticed that you're friends with the same dude that I am, and it's a small world, I said, hey, I'm from Hilliard, Ohio, and I'm here in San Antonio now, but I'm a Buckeye, and I appreciate the fact that happened because you could have invited anybody in the industry, and you invited me. So
yeah, well,
I hope that we can do that again.
I felt good vibes there, right? Like I knew you did this podcast, and I'm like, man, I feel like he's just a guy I would get along with. And I think it was right, and shout out to Jason for like putting a good word in for me and for Maxx Challenger, because I think that was kind of the tipping point for you to be like, okay, like I don't really know these guys, but I'll join them anyways. And Jason's awesome. He's doing something really amazing here in Columbus with Bradford. And it's just like, that's what I want, right? I want to surround myself with like-minded, good people in this industry. And every day I get to go out and meet more of those people or deepen relationships with them. So it's awesome.
That's it. I love this industry, and I'm so thankful for the day I accidentally got into it. I couldn't imagine doing anything else at this point, probably because I'm too old and I don't have any other skills, but this has been an absolute blessing to me. I love being able to do this little podcast where I get to talk to so many cool people. And, it's It's a lot of fun. So
Absolutely.
hopefully we'll be working together for years to come. Before I reach out and give shout out to my sponsors, always love to end with this last question. What's the future look like for you, my friend? Where do you see yourself 3, 5, 10 years down the road? Going to stick in the roofing supplementing game? Is there something else that you're looking at that maybe you say, hey, you know, in my ideal dream world, I end up becoming a UFC fighter or, you know, whatever else there might be out there. What are you looking for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I want to grow this thing as much as we possibly can. I mean, it's been it's awesome to work with your buddies and friends and, you know, things like that, right? But it's when you come from a startup, you're just so personally invested in it. So like I do see myself kind of working with Maxx Challenger and growing it to be as big as we can and making the process as, you know, better every single day, right? Like for our clients, for our contractors. And so that's where I see myself, you know, in the industry in general. Like, I just don't feel like I'm ever going to leave the industry, to be honest with you. Like, if something were to happen with Maxx Challenger tomorrow, I feel like I would find another opportunity within the industry because the people are too valuable to me. The connections I've built are too valuable to me. And so yeah, man, I love being a consultant. I love talking. And I think this opportunity affords me both of those things, right? Like I can get up on stage and talk about supplementing, which I've done like a year ago in Nashville. And we hope to set up more of those events here in the future where we'll be talking about supplementing, kind of the pitfalls of where some contractors fall short in that arena. So I get to kind of check the boxes for me personally on what I like to do and hopefully what I'm good at.
That's what it's all about. We need to have fun, and you realize that life is short. And if you're doing something you don't enjoy, there's really no point in it because you're just going to be frustrated and you're going to have a lot of regret down the road. So we may not be perfect, fans. We may not do everything right 100% of the time, but our hearts are pure. Our intentions are good. And we all love what we're doing here in the roofing industry. And that is the most common theme that I find with every guest I have from roofing on this podcast, 238 episodes deep now. Everybody's got the same thing. We're thankful to be here. We're blessed. We love helping. And that's the moral of today's story. So thank you guys for watching Keepin It Rio. Before we end this episode, y'all know what I got to do. I got to give a shout out to my sponsors at roofer.com. That's ROOFR.com. And Jeremiah, you're probably familiar with them, but I'm going to treat you like you're a Hollywood celebrity makeup artist that I had on last week, or the guy that tried out for the Cincinnati Reds one time on a whim. And I'm going to explain Roofer real quick. So Roofer, ladies and gentlemen, is your all-inclusive program for roofing contractors nationwide, from your first contact all the way to the final payment and beyond. The Roofer CRM will take care of it all for you. Roofer's been my sponsor for 3 years, and I absolutely appreciate everything they do for me, for my roofing business, and for our industry. So shout out to you guys at Roofer, to all the fans, the millions and millions of Keepin It Rio fans that tune in every week. Thank you guys for watching. I could do it without you, but it wouldn't be nearly as much fun. And I love the feedback that I get from people after they see the show. So we're going to impact some folks with this one as well. Jeremiah, thank you, my friend, for taking the time to be here. We kicked our week off in style Monday morning. Now I've got to go look at a commercial roof here shortly. So doesn't get much better than that. You start with the cherry on top and then work your way down. So thank you for taking the time to be here. And ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, until next week, keep on keeping it Rio. And if you'd stick around for just a second after I play this ad to wish our fans goodbye, Jeremiah, you and I will end our conversation. But till next Thursday, you guys, thanks for watching.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payments in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started for free today.